Welcome to Crocodile MTG, your home of competitive, constructed play in the modern, standard, and legacy formats. Today's video was brought to you by all our wonderful sponsors, affiliates, and patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the Crocodile MTG channel, and we hope you enjoy today's video. Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jordan with Crocodile MTG, here bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. Today we're playing Blue Green Infect, taking advantage of the new cards called Scale Up. I think it's also pretty quick for week one of a new format. So we're going to go ahead and start off by taking this Verdant Catacombs, grabbing a Breeding Pool, and then we're going to play out this Noble Hierarch. And the reason for playing out the Noble Hierarch first is not only mana ramp, but that mana ramp can be used on cards like Spell Pierce to protect our creatures. So we're going to pass the turn back, and next turn I think we just want to play out Blighted Agent, and I think we'll pass the turn back to our opponent. And if they have the Path to Exile, I think... Part of me wonders if I should let this resolve and then use it on the Ink Moth. I guess I should put pressure on our opponent. It's unlikely our opponent has multiple removal spells. Alright, and there's a Force Negation. So our opponent is actually going down to 2 cards on this. I am going to use this to search up a forest. And then we have the Ink Moth Nexus, which is actually pretty decent. Depending on what our opponent has in their hand, we could potentially just kill him this turn. Alright, we have Vines. We're going to start by animating Ink Moth. And I think we just cast Might of Old Karosa here and swing in. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're 1 short from lethal if our opponent ends up having a removal spell. So I'm going to play the Mutagenic Growth here, try to get the extra point of damage in. And then I'm actually going to play out the Glistener Elf. And then hopefully our opponent doesn't have removal spells for both. If they have a mass board wipe, we just animate Ink Moth Nexus and we can swing in for lethal. If they don't have removal spells for both, I think we just take this game. So our opponent's going to start with an Opt. Force Negation was pretty good there, countering our Spell Pierce, but it looks like we got game 1. And moving the sideboard, I think we want both these Spell Pierces. We're currently 3-1 in the league. We just played against Blue-White Control. I brought in these Spell Skites also. The things I took out last game were Distortion Strike and 2 Become Immense. I think that might be... I'm sorry, these are Spell Pierces. We want the Spell Pierces, we don't want the Distortion Strikes. I think that might still be correct. Spellskite, Spell Pierce are both things that block our opponent's removal spells, and then Nissa is just a powerful threat if we end up going past turn 3 or turn 4. It's very hard for our opponent to... The thing with Nissa, though, now is it's not as powerful as it once was because our opponent's able to Force a Negation it. If we're able to get it down on the field, though, it's kind of hard to remove. Our opponent does have the Teferi Hero of Dominaria, most likely, as a 1-of or 2-of. But those have been getting cut for the smaller Teferis and also the... also Nissa... Not Nissa, I'm sorry. Teferi Hero of Dominaria has been being cut for... so our opponent plays Narset, not Nissa, Narset. Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Little Teferi typically. And so a lot of the Hero of Dominarias have actually been going down to a 1-of or 2-of. And I can actually see our opponent trying to cut the Hero of Dominaria for extra removal spells against Infect. So Nissa, I think, would be pretty good if we're able to get her on the battlefield and resolved. One additional card I think that could come in this match is Grafdigger's Cage, but we didn't see a Snapcaster game 1, so I don't know. I don't really want to base everything on speculation, because some decks haven't actually been running Snapcaster mages, surprisingly enough. Most decks are still running Snapcaster. It's probably wrong if you're not, but they're playing them in lesser quantities. I think this hand is still keepable, even though it doesn't have like a turn 1 Noble or turn 1 Glistener Elf. It would like to lead with the turn 2 Spellskite into turn 3 Agent, though. So I'm also going to start with a Bauble. It might bait out like a Force Negation if our opponent thinks we don't have any mana, but we'll see. So our opponent deciding if they want to play first or second. I'm sorry, they already decided that. They're deciding if they want to keep or mulligan. So we are going to keep this hand. And I do apologize if my voice sounds a little raspy. I do have a slight cold right now. So we're going to start with this Bauble. We're going to cast this Bauble. We're going to stop at our opponent's upkeep. We're going to play the Wooded Foothills and pass. And then we're going to look at the top of our library and see if we want to fetch. And if we don't, then we're going to look at the top of our opponent's library. Breeding Pool. So we probably do want to fetch. I don't really care what we're going into. Force Negation is a good thing to know about on our opponent's side of the battlefield. It will help us determine what we want to play. So important enough also, our opponent just didn't grab, but they had 2 basic planes. A lot of the deck goes to more basic builds at the moment, which could be incorrect. So I'm going to play this Forest, and I'm going to play this Spellskite. And we'll see if our opponent's able to interact with it. If they have something like a Force of Negation. They do have Force Negation. I don't know what I'm talking about. If they have something like a Path to Exile and they fire it off, I think I'm fine with that. Because next turn we have two Infect creatures coming out and a handful of removal. So, all right, here's a Nissa. All right, that's actually pretty smart from our opponent. I could play the Nissa here, but that's most likely going to get Force Negationed. So I think I just want to play out this Breeding Pool, get the Bladed Agent down, and then play out this Glistener Elf also. So our opponent's going to opt here, which I think is fine. Alright, and now we're going to go to the next turn. We're going to try and scale up, I think, our Glistener Elf and make that the ideal target. And then, depending on what our opponent does, we might be able to get this Nissa down if we draw a land. Unfortunately, every Field of Ruin from this point on is just going to be a pay 2 for a Wasteland. It's going to be very strong here. We actually can't fetch up a untapped land, unfortunately. So yeah, I guess I scale up the Glistener Elf and then make our opponent use the Force if they have it. Not the Force. They do have the Force. They have the choice of using a Force here, or they can Path to Exile if they have it. The thing is, now they have enough mana where they can Force a Negation, and also... Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright, so I think we cast Mutagenic Growth on here, and I think we Mutagenic Growth also. And then I think we let this resolve, this Vendilion Click. And they probably take the Nissa here. Alright, that actually worked out. So now if they have a removal spell, it doesn't matter. Alright, that's unfortunate. Alright, they do have the negation. I gotta remember that. So if they have a... Man, this is a tough game. So I definitely screwed up not playing... Alright, there's a Jace. Alright, they're going to draw 3. I think I ignore the Jace here and just go attack with everything. Alright, here's a Glistener Elf. I think I want to hold that in my hand in case our opponent has a board wipe. I can follow up with the Glistener Elf. And if they have individual removal spells, we can Blossom in defense. The one thing they could have is the new Plague Wind. It's Path of Exile for 2 mana, and it's a sorcery, but you can overload it for 6. I think it's 4 in white. So if they have a land here and they have that ability to overload, that's actually going to take out both our creatures. And since we're playing Infect and don't have any other fetchable lands, we do have fetchable lands. We have Arbor Elf still in our deck, but we don't have any. We don't have any way of. We don't have any way of avoiding the Plague Wind. So yeah, I think we just pass, and then at our upkeep, it looks like something's gonna happen. Snapcaster Mage, Path, and then they have Force Negation. Alright, I guess I make them use the Force Negation here. And then I'm going to trade with Snapcaster. And then play out this next Glistener Elf. Unfortunately... Alright, yeah, they definitely Force Negation here. If they have it. They might actually just have a... Yeah, I was going to say a Logic Knot. Alright, we don't have anything here. We are going to shuffle our library, though, to get that Nissa off the bottom. And... now I think we just swing in. And there's a Nissa. We're going to grab Glistener Elf here. And then our opponent does have the Force Negation still, unfortunately. Alright, they're not going to use the Jace to attempt to bounce our Glistener Elf. So I think that's fine. Our opponent definitely has a lot going on. They do have a Path to Exile and Grave, along with Field of Ruin, Opt, and Vendilion Click. We know they have a Force Negation somewhere in their top cards. So if they're putting it back for some reason with... Alright, this is going to take out a Glistener Elf, unfortunately. So they have 4 cards in hand currently. Somewhere in the top cards is a Force Negation. either in their hands or on top of their library. Alright, there's a Windswept Heath. Now we have no fetchable lands. Alright, I'm going to play out Nissa here, but I don't think it's going to resolve. Oh, and they have Spell Pierce. Not even a good removal spell. Alright, we're going to pass the turn here. They most likely have this game wrapped up. We're going to play it out, though, because, like I said, in game number 3, I believe, time is relevant on MTGO. They do have the chess clock, so if our opponent's not able to finish in 20 minutes or 25 minutes or less, then they do lose, unfortunately. But we're going to use that to our advantage here. Alright, so I am going to start attacking. I guess I attack Jace still. And then I'm going to attempt to become immense. Okay. So they are going to settle here. I really don't think we have any other way to really win. We have this other Nissa. We have a couple Bladed Agents. But since our opponent was able to stop our board, we weren't able to finish them off in time, unfortunately. And our opponent's continuing to draw 3 cards instead of ticking up. If they started ticking up Jace, they're most likely just going to win. But right now, they're just kind of wasting time, I feel like. So we are going to play out this Noble Hierarch and pass the turn. We can still kill them with regular damage, or if they run out of removal spells. We're not completely out of this game yet. We're just unlikely to win at the moment. And that's why I like taking up Jace more than doing this draw 3. Put 2 back. Unfortunately for our opponent, if they're not able to close out the game for some reason, then that's just on them. Alright, here's a Spellskite. So we're going to attack Jace. Most likely this Blast Zone's just going to get blown up. And then I'm going to play out the Spellskite. And hopefully we draw enough removal spells that the Spellskite is relevant. Right now we have a Become Immense in hand, which is 6 damage. Our opponent can just counter. They most likely have another Logic Knot. Alright, so this is fine. I mean, our opponent's doing what they do best in controlling the game. I just think they need to be taking up this Jace, and they're not. Alright, now they're going to start. Alright, I'm going to play out this Inkmoth Nexus. They're going to blow it up with Field of Ruin. And again, alright, I'm not sure why they waited till their turn to do this. Alright. So they're ticking up, looking at the top card of my library. They do decide to leave the card on top, which is a little surprising since it was an Inkmoth Nexus. They could, in theory, just lose to this unless they have another Field of Ruin. Alright, they're going to keep looking at the top card of my library. I did leave in all the Blossoming Defenses. Alright, so I'm not going to use this Inkmoth Nexus just yet. I'm going to wait. So they left Mutagenic Growth. Alright, there's the Field of Ruin. Alright, our opponent's likely going to win this game just by the chase activations. They decide to leave a card on top, so I'm going to shuffle. There's a chance we get to win this game. The chance is just pretty slim. Alright, I don't think this is what the doctor ordered. Alright, they put a card on top. It's an Ink Moth Nexus, which is a little surprising to me. So now they can ultimate their Jace if they'd like. They most likely do. So 35 of our cards ended up in exile. Alright, they have the Field of Ruin. Alright, so I'm going to concede. We have no way of winning. There was a small chance we won, but that didn't happen. So I might want this Nature's Claim, but I don't think I do. I think the only relevant enchantment is the Detention Sphere. Alright, I'm going to keep this hand. This hand's a little slow, but it does have a Noble Hierarch, a Bladed Agent, and a Spellskite. So I'm going to start by I'm going to use these fetch lands first and get as many cards out of our library as we can, and then hopefully the Spellskite's enough to win us the game. It'd be nice if I drew a Blossoming Defense also, because I could Bladed Agent. Alright, so I'm going to start with this Breeding Pool, simply because the forests are all fetchable by Path to Exile, and all the other exile effects in our opponent's grave. Alright, they start with a Misty of their own. So I think I want... Do I want Dryad Arbor here? I guess so. We just want to fetch things out of our library. And then I'm going to play the Spellskite. And now next turn the Bladed Agent's going to be pretty decent. I might actually swing with the Dryad Arbor. Alright, our opponent's going to exile Spellskite here. We're going to get a forest out of it. Prismatic Vista. Alright, so there's an Ink Moth, and we're also going to swing in with Dryad Arbor here for 2. We can just kill him with regular damage as well, so I'm trying to diversify that a little bit. And now we're going to play the Bladed Agent. And we'll see what our opponent has for all of this. It is quite a bit to ask for. Alright, unfortunately I tapped the Dryad Arbor because I think our opponent here is going to Logic Knot for 3. That may have been a misplay on my part. We'll see how it plays out. So our opponent's Logic Knotting for 3, which I didn't notice, unfortunately. Oh. Alright, this might be a misplay on our opponent's part. So I thought they were going to Logic Knot for 3, but that wasn't the case. They only Logic Knotted for 2. And that's why I thought it was a mistake to hit my Dryad Arbor. So now they can path. Alright, now they have Detention Sphere. But if they're going after Bladed Agent, there's a chance I draw something like Become Immense. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, if I draw Become Immense or Scale Up, I think we just win. That's unfortunate. Alright, we didn't draw either. So I'm going to start the Infect damage train. And I think I'm going to play out this Breeding Pool tapped and then pass the turn back. Alright, Field of Ruin's probably going to take care of this Inkmoth Nexus. So I'm probably going the normal damage route at this point. Alright, there is Blossoming Defense. So I can force them to use a removal spell on this. Alright, it looks like end of turn they're going to use the Field of Ruin, which I understand. Snapcaster Path? Alright, Path what though? Path the Inkmoth? I could see that. Alright. Now they can Field of Ruin it if they'd like. They are down to 14 though, which is kind of relevant. Unfortunately, I don't have the other card here. We do have plenty of mana, though. Alright, so we do have Mutagenic Growth times 2. So I'm going to swing in with this Dryad Arbor here. They're most likely blocking with the Snapcaster, and then I'm going to Mutagenic Growth it to keep it around. If they have something like Path, it is what it is. But I have to kill him somehow. I think damage is probably our best chance. They have a board wipe here. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Alright, so now I have to draw an Infect creature, hopefully. Alright, Noble Hierarch works a little bit too. I have to find a way to deal 14 damage to them. Alright, they're going to opt. Maybe I should have brought in that one of Nature's Claim. They put one card on bottom of their library. So I'm going to start by swinging in here for 1. And now I'm going to play this Glistener Elf, and maybe by a small margin of chance we might be able to get there. Our opponent probably has high counter magic and low everything else. I'd sure hope. So at our opponent's upkeep here, we're going to actually look at the top card of their library. We could look at the top card of our library too, but they have Supreme Verdict, unfortunately. So that's going to negate quite a bit of our plan here. We do get to draw 2 cards, though. Neither of which are anything we want. Wow, that's unfortunate. If we were able to untap there and our opponent didn't have a removal spell, we probably just would have won the game. Excuse me. And now we're just ticking up looking for cards. Alright, we have a pretty decent spell here in the form of Bladed Agent. If it gets to stick around, then we're doing pretty good. If it does not get to stick around, we're doing pretty bad. Alright, so our opponent's going to get to draw 2 cards here. We're going to get the Vines, but Vines is most likely going to be able to be countered. So our opponent has to have a removal spell here. Interesting. Alright, so Jace is coming down from our opponent. So if they have the path, they're going to want a Jace minus, and then... What are they doing? Okay, they have the Supreme Verdict. Now they can Jace 0. Good news and bad news is, good news is we can take out our opponent as soon as we have a creature. Bad news is we don't have a creature. So once we find that creature, if our opponent doesn't have another board wipe, alright, Noble might be the creature that wins us the game. If they counter this, I think that'd be smart, which seems silly. But if Noble comes down and hits the battlefield and they only have like a targeted removal spell, we're able to take that out. So they're going to fetch here with Flooded Strand. Alright, they're going to counter draw. They are down to 12. Alright, they're going to start taking up Jace, looking at the top card of our library. They put a card on top, so actually... Oh, Nissa. Why would they leave Nissa there? Because V-click. Okay. They're going to take a look at our hand. They probably have to take the Nissa here. Alright, they probably just have counter spells, counter magic then. So do I just run the Nissa out, or do I... Alright. I guess I wait a turn, see what they have. Alright, they put a card on bottom, they play a Colonnade. Hopefully our hand's just good enough. We really need an Infect creature. We're going to cast Nissa here. It most likely gets countered. And now I think we're just dead no matter what we do. Alright, they leave the card on top. And now they swing in for 7. And we have no way of gaining life. Alright, so a little unfortunate for us. They probably just have the counter spell. And they have that. And that is the game. So unfortunately we went 3-2 today. So good game, opponent. And that was blue-white control. So that was pretty exciting. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please check out next week's video for more Modern Horizons decks in Modern. It's very exciting. The set definitely shook up the format, and I am excited to try out all the new decks. So thank you so much for watching, and check you out, or I will see you next video. Thank you so much for watching. Please go hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed today's video. For your custom playmats, mouse pads, and more, head over to Inked Gaming. Use promo code crocodilemtg10 to receive 10% off your order. Today's video was brought to you by all our wonderful sponsors, affiliates, and patrons.